Gentlemen, thank you so much, and congratulations on your nomination. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about the renegotiation of NAFTA agreements, but for Washington, the agriculture community has benefited greatly. I think it's something like 200% increase in agricultural exports. And now, as people have talked about the negotiations, some are concerned about provisions that would treat perishable and seasonal products differently that could lead to retaliatory measures. So I think in 1996, the export value of Washington food and agriculture was $2.6 billion, and today it has grown to $6.8 billion. So it's been positive. So how do we make sure that the status of the proposed seasonal and perishable trade remedy, what do you think the status of that is, and how do we avoid pitting one part of the country against another?
Well, Senator, I'm certainly aware of that issue. I note that it's something that Congress addressed in the TPA legislation. Given that I'm not a cleared negotiator, I'm not familiar with the proposals that the U.S. has put forward to deal with that issue. But I certainly understand that this is an area where there are a lot of strong opinions, and agriculture is not a monolith. There are different interests in different parts of the country. I can commit to you that if I am confirmed, I will listen to the views of all stakeholders to make sure that we come up with an appropriate solution.
And so how would you plan or prioritize so that one region wasn't harmed over another? Particularly if it might be just done for political purposes. I'm not interested in changing NAFTA at the 200% agriculture increase in Washington State for somebody to say, hey, Florida, I did something for tomatoes, and basically screw the apple or pear or cherry industry. That's just not good policy.
Well, Senator, I think that this is an area where, again, it's important to solicit input from all stakeholders. Again, I'm not familiar with the text that has been tabled on this, but it has to be appropriately crafted. I understand the concerns that have been voiced by growers in in certain parts of the country. As I also understand the concerns that have been voiced by growers of seasonable and perishable goods in Florida and Georgia. This is an area where we need to strike an appropriate balance, and I'm committed to doing that.
So if you were in this position in the future, you would not pursue policies that did that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Senator, I'm committed to following TPA, and I know that one of the things that Congress instructed USTR to do in TPA was to ensure that growers of seasonable and perishable goods have access to import protections. But at the same time, I understand that there are concerns among some aspects of, among certain parts of that same sector that they could face retaliation if there are changes, and so that's why I think it's important that we hear from everyone and we craft an appropriate solution. Again, I'm not sure exactly what's
that doesn't put them in that place. That doesn't cause those kinds of challenges.
We certainly need to take all of this into account. My goal is to advance the interests of agriculture, not to undermine them in any way.
Thank you. And so what do you think we need to do to further bump up the opportunities for U.S. agricultural products to reach new markets? What do you think some of those?
Well, I think that there are a few things. For one thing, I think the NAFTA negotiations aim to achieve that, particularly with regard to the Canadian dairy sector, which is an area where our producers continue to be shut out. We have opportunities, I think, in Asia, Africa. The relationship with Argentina is showing some signs of progress. So I think that in all of these areas we need to be active, including through discussions about FDAs with appropriate candidates.
Here's what I would like you to think about. I'm foregoing and doing as many bilaterals as we can possibly do. Propose them to Congress. Let them decide which ones of these agreements they think are good. But when we fail to open up new and developing markets and other people come and get a foothold, get 30% of market share, it's very hard to come in behind that. So the one thing we know how to do in the United States of America is grow product. we're the best. So let's make sure that we're opening up all these developing countries by getting more workforce out there in the discussion with these countries about opening those opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.